So you're going to be editing.
A lot. So, what I wanted to ask you today in this beautiful atmosphere, and we are not at the beach, we're talking here about categories. So, you are judging moving craft and images, and I'm judging outdoor and print, which are both traditionally, traditional categories compared to many others. So, compared to all the years that you might have judged or seen the work, how do you think this category of moving craft and moving images is evolving, or what is different about it?
When I look at work, it's about the idea first, and if the craft sort of turns an idea into the really outstanding piece of work, then we're here to celebrate that. And in terms of changes, I think craft is always something that speaks for itself because you immediately see it, no matter what the technology behind it is. And yes, we're obviously kept awake by all the things that are happening in terms of AI, but it needs to be for a purpose. And if it's not for a purpose and it's just sort of like to kind of like polish something that doesn't really make
Does it impress
better,
you? Yeah.
it's not really real in terms of craft. So we're not actually seeing that much new technology in craft just yet. So I think it's here to stay. It's here to kind of evolve it constantly. I mean, there's been some outstanding things like the submerged, the Apple Vision Pro, which is obviously phenomenal.
You experienced it.
Yes, I experienced it. It was amazing. So that's definitely something that's there to stay and blow people's minds. I mean, it's such an incredible piece of tech. Hard to handle though, from a sort of like living, breathing art director, creative briefing standpoint. But it's definitely something that is quite impressive. And how about you? How are you seeing your category evolve?
Oh, I think print must be like the first category that ever came to awards, and out of home must have followed soon after. I think this is the category that probably has seen tremendous change. So, in the early years, when we would be judging print and out of home, it would be largely looking at static images.
How about you? How is your category in terms of innovation and changes that you're seeing?
So, what I felt was print and out of home is probably, the category that has changed the most in the last few years. All these years, not all these years, but let's say before last 3 or 5 years, when you were judging print or you're judging out of home, it would largely be static. And you are judging it for the idea and the craft and the message that the brand is giving. But it's no longer about the message. What is fantastic and what I really found interesting is it's almost a brand having a conversation with you. A lot of print and out of home work that we see, some of it is still classic and you cannot deny the craft and the idea in the static as well. But a lot of it is also like great ideas that are living, breathing and moving. And that's what is really impressive, and that's what I think is going to move the category ahead. Like, if you see in out of home, even in across shows, what is winning is sometimes static, but a lot of other stuff are like interactive ideas or even activations. I think the beautiful thing that is happening is between a lot of categories, the lines are being blurred. Maybe I think it's beautiful and others don't, because sometimes you see a piece and you feel like, oh, this is outdoor also, but it's activation, as well. So I think that is really nice that the brand is having a conversation. It's allowing you to interact. Because if we just kept giving messages to people, I think the category would die out in awards, or we would only have like 6 entries.
So, Kainaz, what kind of instructions did you pass on to your jury members as a president for your category? What did you want people to look out for, specifically now judging the work the last 2 days?
I sent them a letter, and the letter I sent them was that a lot of us are judging individually, and we'll be judging in our homes. So, there will be distractions. There'll be time when you see a piece and you don't really get it. But even if you like it a little bit, bring it to the room, because we can discuss it, we can talk about it. Maybe someone in the room can give you a cultural context about it. So my thing was to be a little more generous at that time. once we were in one show, I wanted to align myself completely with how one show sees its awards. So it was idea is king in the room, and then you see execution, and results come last. So it's not like, sometimes you're just like, okay, but let's see, how many people, you can see how many people subscribed, but that's not the biggest percentage that you sort of allot for the giving the award. The most important thing is just look at the idea, enjoy the idea and the execution, and then if it comes to that, we'll look at the results.
Right. Yeah, I mean, for me, I basically sort of advised my jury members to love the work. Give it some time, give it the attention it deserves. A lot of people have worked very hard to kind of like make this happen, whatever it is that is entered, and are proud of it. And so we should kind of respect that first and foremost. And the other thing I also sort of like ask to watch out is to kind of also look for work that isn't attached to a familiar brand. That you potentially don't quite understand, like in your jury. Give it the time to sort of like maybe have a second life as we kind of elevate the work into the next round. Maybe somebody can give some context. So it's there, and especially with craft, moving craft, how hard it is with the shrinking budgets to kind of get anything airborne. So I do also appreciate the small little things, the decisions to kind of like look hard for a great actor, look hard for some great typography in moving craft. The little details also, we kind of like are so busy, and you said it yourself, when you like judging these 400, 500 entries, you're kind of like, oh my God, how am I going to fit this in a day? And the other thing I sort of didn't realize until I got into the prejudging of this, and my fellow jury members felt the same as I asked them in the room, is that we're seeing so much long format, and it's sometimes, with our like general attention deficit disorder that we kind of got going on, is to kind of like have the patience to finish it and see why they decided to kind of like go for a long format. So that's sort of what I told my jury.
I love the instructions. I want to be in your jury next time.
Thank you so much.
At one point in the room, we were talking about whether we should see the case studies or not, and ultimately we decided to go ahead and see them, because we felt like in today's day and age, even print and out of home needs context, and people have really worked hard to submit it. So let's just give it that, let's take some of the beach time away and give it to this.
Yeah, I mean, it's very weird because you kind of don't want to see the case film when you're judging something like craft, because you want to kind of like have an unbiased view on the work in that way. But I'm finding myself wanting to see the case study even in moving craft, because you want to, we're also spoiled by case films to kind of give us context. Because with targeting these days, I don't get to see the majority of the work that I'm involved in, because I'm not targeted. So it's so hard now to judge campaigns in the context that they live in, because even if I wanted to see a Puerto Rican campaign with a VPN, I'd still be struggling to find it in real life. So I think that it's very important that we know that this work has a life. And it sits somewhere, and it has an audience, and it's not just a jury.
Yes.
You said just earlier that you decided to sometimes not see them, and then you ended up seeing them anyway. What is your advice to anyone that's currently probably in the depths of making new case films for entries in the future? What's your advice when you kind of look at that sort of like cat of case films?
So when I think about a case film that I really loved, so people often don't realize it, but there's a watchability to the case film. Sometimes people think it's just about stringing the problem, the solution, and then like putting some influencers at the end saying that how much they love the idea, which everyone knows is, paid and co-opted. To me, it's a story. Tell it, give it the love that you would give a story. tell me what the story was behind it. And some of the like great pieces that we saw, one of my favorite case films ever is Maria Pierto.
Hmm.
And I feel it's such a beautifully told story that I have seen it like 10 times in prejudging and other shows out here. I never get bored of watching that case. I never want to stop watching it. So I think that is very important. Secondly, every line has to move the story forward. Okay, like I know it, you're making some jokes, etc. I know that, but move the story forward. If the case is not moving the story forward, if it's just like, you're just going to talk about like, just throw a lot of social media in it and not do that, I think that is something that's going to, the jury is not going to be fooled by it. So I think that is another thing. And the third thing which I have realized is so important is the music in the case.
Hmm.
Often people don't give it enough thought, but a great track that actually brings your idea alive will make the jury pay more attention to it.
I love seeing case films that, generally have a love for what it is about, because it's so factual. Many are so factual, and
Yeah.
you're like, okay, 5 billion impressions,
Yeah,
blah, 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 blah. And you're kind of, okay, obviously there was, the impact was right, because
Yeah.
otherwise it would have not made it into like this jury
Yeah.
room otherwise. And I just wanted to be genuinely proud of the work, the case film, and I think what's also quintessential is that you get to the point quickly in the case film, because
Yeah.
you don't want to repeat the briefing and then what happened next. That sort of step-by-step manual to the work isn't the way to go. I think
Yeah.
it's an individual piece of work that deserves an individual case film. It's sort of it's very hard to kind of keep up with these excellent examples that you
Yeah.
notice, because budgets are limited, and I just try to sort of like see the balance between like case films that are clearly cost more than $20,000 and case films that just were made to just have one that kind of like incrementally
Yeah.
told you a little bit of context. So all case films deserve to be watched.
Yes.
And I think they need to be integral to the work. That's the most important. I'm a little bit overwhelmed by the amount of great work, and we're seeing that as we go into this final round, that there's a lot of work that sort of made it into the final round. So, I mean, the one piece of work that I hadn't seen, and I spoke about this earlier, is obviously Submerged, and the second video that you could see on the Apple Vision Pro
Yes.
the weekend. I mean, it's just phenomenal what this technology
Next
can add
level.
to storytelling. I mean, you really literally thought your feet would be wet. There's a couple of storytelling, cineastic pieces of work that sort of were really interesting. There was one piece of work that used sort of like in film, but the motion of gaming, the relay, the delay
Yeah,
that you
yeah,
have
yeah,
in
yeah.
gaming, that was very interesting. I thought to kind of use a piece of gaming reality in real life for filming, that was fun. So a lot of great work that we're gonna look into handing awards out to.
Anything from a classic film that you fell in love with in
Classic.
terms of craft?
Oh, I mean, okay, so
Something that really touched your heart.
Yeah, something that really touched my heart. I mean, by far, on a personal level, because I'm also like a huge Star Wars fan. A very small piece of work from Apple for Find My Friends, the Mandalorian Comic-Con piece of work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so simple and so real and so loving, and it fits the product so well. I just filmically, I'm deeply in love with that piece of work. Some things that I see along the way throughout the year, I literally download to kind of keep it.
Yeah.
And that thing I downloaded.
Apple makes some amazing films.
Amazing.
Even, I mean, I know the one earlier piece that you talked about was next level of tech, but I'm saying just film,
Yeah, film.
is just.
It's so loving, and now it was all real. Mandalorians,
Yeah.
and their costumes were left the way that they made them themselves, and it was so charming, and you didn't need much more than that sort of like joint love for Star Wars and Mandalorian. So I love that. Final question to you: what does the one show mean for all of us working in communication, as particularly?
So I'm going to give away my age when I talk about this, but at the risk of doing that, to me, the one show, Irene, is almost a school. So I'll tell you why I say that. Because when I joined advertising, and I used to work late into the night, and there used to be briefs, given to us, and we had to crack it by the next morning, etc. And I'm sitting alone in the office, and invariably, when I was stuck, I would turn to that big one show annual that would be there, and I would bring it to my table, and I would start reading it for inspiration, and then I would shut it and maybe have a small snack or something, and you won't believe it. Within like minutes, I would be inspired enough to think of an idea. So it was like a beautiful teacher for me. So every time I was stuck, I would pick up that heavy book. I miss that book, but it was a very coveted book in our office, and not everyone could afford it. So the office had like 2 copies between everybody. But to me, it'll always be one of my first cherished teachers.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that there's very little places to turn to that celebrate, love the work more than the one show, and I think that rings true to all the years that the one show has been in existence, and I think it's the craft, it's the people behind the work, and the idea that is at the forefront of what we're celebrating here. So, I mean, there's no better place to look for inspiration, for a benchmark, for like that little bit of a tinge. I wish I'd done that, to kind of like push yourself, because like no one ever says that this job that we're doing is easy, but once you sort of like look and see what gets awarded, and it's worth the hard work, and it's worth the sort of energy that you put into crafting it down to the nines, makes it be here.
And winning a pencil, oh my God.
Exactly. Sharpen at both ends.
Absolutely.
Keep the candle lit at both ends.